a little tune to change up some things. My friends, welcome in to another moment in time with ZG. Today we're gonna be another topic we're gonna be talking about, or just rambling about, what is the keyword with the keyword changes. We're gonna be talking a little bit about changes. Now, I don't necessarily have a specific direction to where I would want to go with this topic, as I am myself still very much getting acquainted, getting to know changes, getting to learning about changes myself in practice in life. But I feel like it's a wonderful topic that we could all just share some insight about. So without further ado, welcome in to my humble abode. As usual, the same old screen with a little bit of a changing intro. That being said, a wonderful segue to the topic of changes. I am in the middle of redecorating my room. This layout, basically my furniture, that has been static, that has been in this particular arrangement for 10-15 years now. So because I've been feeling lately that I would want to change some things up, and this is a wonderful opportunity to just segue into some changes. So it will be changing out, it will probably look professional, but bear with me for now, and it's going to be a nice moment in time. So like I said, don't have a specific direction in mind, but I just want to record my thought process, my train of thought, basically for future references, and maybe you guys can take something from it as well. That being said, changing up my furniture, changing up my life, changing bad habits into good ones. Changes. What is change? Just how do we feel about changes? Yeah, we know how the saying goes. We know change is basically the only constant in life. Which is a paradox essentially, right? The only constant, only fixated certain thing in life is changes. The essence of life, I suppose, is fluid in nature. The nature of life is fluid, like water. It's always in motion, one way or another. Basically, yeah, it's always changing. Sometimes less, sometimes more. So, why do we struggle so much with changes? Why do we usually struggle with changes? Probably because, speaking, for example, from my own experience, I'm a person, like I think I've mentioned in a previous video, I'm a person of habit, person of routine. I easily create, shall I say, a comfort zone around a specific topic, a specific area, or a specific feeling in life, and then disruption of that balance, that peace and quiet and just simplicity, stalemate, basically, disrupts me greatly, and I am thrown into changes, the waves of changes, just like the ocean, always undirectional, not necessarily just changing, swapping, swishing around. That is the case. So yeah, changes are natural habit, natural, the only natural occurrence, but they don't need to be negative. They don't need to be bad necessarily. Life is an up and down. Life is a curve, right? Like it's had highs and ups and downs. If it were just a stalemate, if it was a regular just line, it would be just like beep. You know what I'm trying to say. Life is just up and downs. So in that sense, I would want to talk about I would like to touch on the fluctuation, the exact ups and downs I had just mentioned. So speaking from a, let's say, somewhat scientific standpoint, fluctuation, basically going from a high to a low, just the change, the potential, the literal potential energy from high to low, the differential between highs and lows, in my opinion, is the very essence of life itself. It is the energy, the change from high to low, from going from a state of high energy to low energy. If it was a stalemate, there will always be just a constant amount of energy, or just, yeah, available energy. But as we know it can expand and it can grow, and that expansion, that fluctuation itself, that basically that friction, I want to say, that friction is the energy we generate, the energy we use up for life, we use for good, for improvement, as well as potentially self-harm, I want to say, because let's face it, sometimes we are just overflowing with negative energy. We all are, sooner or later, and that is not necessarily the best thing, is not really helpful, let's say. It's not productive. That's why we're doing things like this, like recording this video to talk about these things. So the friction, yes. And in such moments, basically, friction between two, dare I say, opposing forces, I want to say, the similar aspect, just like I've been I've touched on just before, the negative, the not so pleasant effect of change, the fear of change itself. That is a good term. The fear of change occurs, for example, from my own example earlier, from going outside of the comfort zone into a new unknown thing. Two opposing forces basically being rubbed against each other, just being on the verge, on the cusp of each other, and right, and that energy, the fear of the unknown and the safety and the calmness of the known causes friction, tense energy. It basically causes stress, is what I'm trying to say. Just like I've talked in a previous video, that stress builds up in the body, builds up in the mind, and we get tense, and we create negative energy, we create negative charge, and then nothing really good happens. So chronic ailments, just stalemate, feeling overall bad life choices, even worse, we tend to begin going down a downward spiral into more and more amassing more energy, basically more negative energy. So that friction, yes, is on the same note. On the other hand, however, that energy can be also good. For example, let me just say the point here. From what I've gathered, from what we know, changes, the crossover, basically, from one state into another, the area of change, pretty much is probably, I'm trying to say, encompasses, inherently includes, just has the most available energy out there. The highest peak of available energy is in the space between one state and the other, in the moment between changing states, because of said friction, good or bad, it has the highest potential, the highest amount of energy, and that energy can be used for good. It can propel us much more forward. It can propel us into a spiral upwards or a spiral downwards, or just a little bump up or a bump down, however we perceive it. The key to change, in my opinion, is our perception, how we perceive changes. Much like anything, much like pretty much all aspects of life, is how we perceive them. It's our own perception, our interpretation of whether it's good or it's bad, essentially, when it comes down to it, right? We can't necessarily affect the changes we face in life. Sometimes life has its wits, ups and abouts, and changes come all of a sudden. For example, I can speak from my own experience, my personal life as well. We had just learned that the passing of a somewhat close family member. All of a sudden, he was in his, I want to say, prime. He wasn't sick. He wasn't at all, but he just came to pass by all of a sudden, and that was most definitely, for my experience, in my opinion, just a complete shock, complete unnecessary change, complete unexpected change. So so it came overnight, essentially, just all of a sudden. But such changes do happen, and we can pretty much almost never do anything about changes like that. We can, however, like I keep reiterating, we can change our perception of that. Usually, even the worst changes come with a reason, as we tend to know, as many spiritual teachings tell us. Nature or life doesn't make mistakes. Essentially, everything happens for a reason, and that, to this day, I feel still very much holds true. So it is our perception, how we perceive these changes. We can affect our perception. Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. We can't do much about the changes that are brought into our life, but we can change our perception. We can ask ourselves, for example, like, what cycle of change am I going through right now? What do we need to change? What do we need to take care of? What do we need to let go of? What do we need to nurture? What do we need to build? Or questions like this, basically. It's the perfect time in the time of changes is to ask these questions to yourself. However, what follows afterward is just as detrimental as taking a step back, basically, or asking these questions. Because I know from my own experience, as well as many other practices, you can keep asking these questions on end. Many psychological teachings don't really give let's say, a definite stop to these things. So you can go into an endless spiral of just asking questions, asking, why does this happen? Why is it me? What is this teaching me? How can I be better? How can I be better? And surely, slowly but surely, the mind is gonna get overrun, right? By trying to always be better, trying to keep answering these, at the end, pointless questions, right? Just let's say, egotistical based questions, right, with no definite answer. So just as much as asking questions, what follows, how we respond or react to these things, is just as important, at least just as important. Just as important is good enough. It's balanced. So yeah, we can, when facing challenges, when facing changes, we can either act or react, essentially. Reacting is usually the go-to, is the instinctual, it's the conscious, it's the realistic response to it. Usually it's basically the ego-based response. We react, something changes, something happens, and we react to it. And that is just a logical conclusion. That is basically, in my own terms, that is limited to the mind, limited to just the present location, space, and time confined. It is limited. Whereas acting on a change, just responding to a change, is much more soulful. Comes more from the heart and soul. Comes from a place of peace, essentially. Not so much necessarily logic, but more so a place of serenity and clarity and focus, right? So yes, what do I mean by acting? What is the difference between reacting and acting? For example, reacting would be for example, let's take a practical approach. A couple breaks up. Two people break up from their relationship, and reacting would be they blame each other, or one just blames another for their misfortune, and just decides to go completely just into hermit mode, going completely alone, closing themselves off, and just erasing all the past, all the memories and whatnot. That would be reacting, just a reaction, a response, just a complete action into a reaction, and just closing off. It's the logical conclusion. Whereas acting would be a practical example to take a step back and said location. It's said in said experience, said example. Take a step back and ask these questions. How does the heart feel? How does the mind feel? How do we feel? How do we perceive this? How are we experiencing this change right now? Take a step back and quietly, peacefully, sincerely assess the situation first. Taking a step back, breathing through it all, taking into account some peaceful aspects. Peaceful, yes, that's a good word. Balanced aspects, calm, from a place of serenity and peace. These aspects, getting a clearer picture of the situation as clearly as can possibly be, and then respond to that instead of reacting to the immediate on-point situation. Get a clear picture, just take into account all the things. Usually, like I said, reaction is based on the ego, is basically on the limited mind in the moment, on logic, shall we say, just to paraphrase it. Whereas acting comes from a place of growth, expansion, learning, experience, and just moving forward of flow, of the essence of life, like we said, of the flow, ebb and flow of life. And getting a clearer picture is never getting a clear picture, taking a step back, assessing situations, finding the solution, so to say. Your mind might be telling you, or just our minds might be telling us, no, we mustn't take a step back. We gotta find the solution. We gotta figure this out. We gotta figure this out. That's a common phrase, right? Whereas if you just still take a step back and assess the situation, your nature, your soul's soul will know the right answer, the right response to the situation when you feel it, when you take it into account, when you come from a place of peace and prosperity. You will know what the right answer is, essentially. But just an example to describe it a little bit, I personally would describe the right answer, the right response to changes, to developing things, to growth, would be the small moments, the small instances, small ideas that your mind, body, and soul basically react to. That would be the best summed up portion. Something you don't necessarily have to think too much about. Something that feels good, that feels right. You can't explain why, but it just feels right and makes you happy and it makes you smile, for example. Just try to notice it. Sometimes when you're debating, when you're thinking about things, try to think of an idea that makes you smile, or just take notice if you're thinking about something and it makes you smile or just well up with good feelings inside. That might be a good direction to go from there, in my opinion, right? Just keep mindful of that. Stay mindful of that. That is a wonderful way to put it. Some little instance, some little trickle, some little spark of joy, of happiness, of love that your mind, body, and heart, mind, soul, and heart agree on, I suppose. That is a wonderful way to put it. For example, sometimes I personally just do something spontaneous, completely, like go for a walk, or just try to do something unpredictable per se. For example, like what would be something unpredictable? Go out and, I don't know, just call my mom, just check up how she is, tell her that I love her and appreciate her. If I can do anything for her, try to do something for somebody else, for example. Go out for a walk, that is never a bad thing. Take a step back, or just calm down, learn to relax right here, right then, in the moment, is a very appropriate change, very appropriate action response to said action. Just sometimes if you were conditioned to reacting throughout your entire life, taking a step back and easing into things slowly and easily might just be the most appropriate change you can face. Taking a step back, learn to relax, learn to enjoy the quietness and stillness of the mind, for example. Taking a step back can very much be a good response. Not always. If you're prone to just grow and just keep developing further, it's acting is a little bit more, I suppose, appropriate, but you know what I'm trying to say. Sometimes taking a step back is the necessary change you are wishing for, and the idea and the answer are one and the same. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, a practical example how to respond to these things, to changes, how to assess the situation is, like I've just, coming from this example specifically, just like meditating, singing and dancing, going for a walk in the nature, taking a step back, just listening to yourself, being in tune with your one self, essentially. Yeah, just finding a place of quiet, doing nothing in particular, but just asking yourself, how do you feel about these changes? Where would you want to go? Where you are now, first of all, and then where would you like to go from here? And take notice how these different ideas rise and fall, and how your heart, mind, and soul respond to it. Basically, how do you feel in response to these ideas, basically. That was a little bit about the little topic tidbit of changes, something that I am very, as mentioned, very much not accustomed to yet, but spontaneity and changes go hand in hand, right? Sometimes we try to strive for a balance. I always say we don't necessarily want to be just spontaneous, and we don't necessarily just want to be just rigid and focused and proactive and whatnot. We try to strive for a balance, a little bit of spontaneity here and there, but overall just a clear schedule, not a clear schedule, just clear determination and step-by-step process following, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, both of these things are good. Just one extreme, polar opposite, is not usually a good thing, but the fluctuation from one to another and finding the right balance from one extreme to the other one, just finding the middle ground and then fluctuating ever so slightly around here and there, is very much the essence of life, the fluidity of life, the embracing of changes. That is an impressive conclusion, dare I say so myself, and I feel like we nailed the nail on the head. We nailed the point of that right there. All right, my friends, thank you very much for listening to this little rant. I am very appreciative and very grateful that you took your time to listen to me just think freely and speak freely. I hope I mentioned anything at all that might have resonated with you. I hope I have mentioned something you might have not known before, something you have been thinking about lately, or trying to implement in your own lives, something you have been trying to achieve, something you haven't thought about at all. If I did, let me know in the comments below. Let me know in the my social media DMs. Links are always down below channel. Let me know on the blog of choice, always. Like I said, all the links, you know how this goes by now. Check us out live sometimes. Chime in with your voice or just your opinion live sometimes on the stream, twitch.tv/zg_killit, where we do these kinds of things ever so frequently and as often as possible, live on stream and live interaction, and we can learn, get to know each other, and grow together forward. So with that being said, my friends, thank you very much once again for watching. I hope you have a most fantastic day. I hope we meet each other again sometime, and I certainly hope to see you and in any other moment in time.